Hi, my name is Alex Arklind, and I'm going to be walking through how I made a magnetic refrigerator behavior chart. I am making this as an inside joke between my roommates and I. Three components that I manufactured include the epoxy panels, the copper frame for the magnet, and the small wooden magnets themselves. The first step is to create the silicone mold for the epoxy panels. After making a form out of cardboard and duct tape, a wooden component was also covered in duct tape. Silicone is then mixed in a 1:1 ratio and poured over the duct taped component in the form. Once the mold is cured and the molding component removed, the silicone mold was wiped clear of any excess residues. Mold release was then sprayed in to help remove the component after curing. Epoxy was mixed in a 1:1 volume ratio and mixed together until homogeneous. Glitter was added into the epoxy for color. The epoxy was then poured into the mold and allowed to cure for 24 hours. It was then removed, and this process was repeated until all the panels were made. To make the frame, copper tube straps were cut to size and prepped with steel wool and flux for soldering. In order to add stability to the finished product, supports were added horizontally and aligned with the locations where epoxy panels would meet. Each joint was then soldered. Once completely cooled, magnets were glued to one side of the frame to hold it up on the fridge. After the attachment magnets dried, the panels were glued to the remnants of a whiteboard, and then the assembly was further glued to the frame. The whiteboard remnant was used to make the color in the epoxy panels stand out. To make the wooden magnets, a piece of trim was measured and cut to size. It was then sanded both to smooth the edges and also to prep the flat surfaces for being glued. Pieces of whiteboard were cut out and then glued to the fronts of these wooden pieces, and actual magnets were glued to the back of these pieces. Once the glue was dry, the wood was shined with oil, and in the end, the chart works perfectly and as intended.